I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zayas Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Linda's Adventures, Council of Thieves Part 1. Council of Thieves was my very first experience GMing for more than the solo player of Mark. Mark got me into GMing by, because he was saying, you'd be a great GM. And I'm like, no, I don't know. Like, I didn't think I'd be good at it.
I'd be terrible as a
GM. Like, I don't know how to do this. And so I had asked him, what do you want for your birthday? And he's like, I want you to GM something for me. So I did. And but that's not the topic of this episode.
Yeah,
but
you did, and then as a present, I got you a subscription to the Pathfinder Adventure Paths.
Yes. And then I decided that I was going to jump in head first and run an adventure path. I remember being insanely nervous before my first few sessions, for sure, which actually factored into allowing me to inadvertently learn something about good GMing. But
hooray!
We'll get there. So yeah, I suppose we should start off by introducing the players.
The players or the characters?
/ characters. So...
Because we haven't introduced the players before.
We can introduce... Yes. Just the characters, I suppose, for people's privacy. We had Carl...
Permission error.
Yeah, I need to log back in. It kicked me out. We had Carl, the gnome sorcerer. Carl was a rather violent fellow. He is also a cobbler. Whose primary weapon was
a scythe.
A scythe. So Carl kind of had some red cap energy about him, honestly.
Like, I asked the player if he was supposed to be a red cap blooded gnome because he was a fey sorcerer, and he did not know about red caps, but looked them up and then decided that was awesome. He carried a scythe because of the fact that he would use incapacitation effects on opponents and then coup de grace them.
Yes.
That was sort of his thing.
Carl...
For the ×4 critical.
A description that the player wrote about Carl is, while not actively bloodthirsty, innocuous events sometimes trigger repressed memories. This often ends with someone dead. So Carl was
he was sometimes actively bloodthirsty.
Yeah, well, that was how the player described him. But yeah, Carl was someone who had not had good life experiences.
That's right. It looks like his mother was
his mother was
in jail.
His mother was imprisoned. She was released during the campaign, and he was on very poor terms with his father because of how his father had treated him growing up. And he was a shoemaker.
Living in the recently refurbished home in the slums of West Crown.
Carl, codename The Cobbler.
Yes,
they all got codenames eventually.
We eventually got codenames when we wound up having a one of the PCs replaced with the player who was the same one in Kingmaker who kept replacing his characters, but in this case there was much more of a reason for it. Replaced with a security-obsessed Galton rogue who forced everyone to use codenames.
But yes, this was definitely one of those examples of a traditional PC player who comes with their PC and their PC has 17 layers of tragic backstory.
What? His character was like the median tragic backstory.
Oh no, we'll be getting to the more tragic backstories. This was a heavy tragic backstory campaign. We had Crunkfree, half-orc paladin of Shellen, whose name came from the orcish Crunk, together with Jeffrey is how the player came up with that name. Yes, because the player's like,
I don't know what kind of name I could have. I said, well, orcish names could be like Crunk. And the player of Carl said, well, it could just be a regular name like Jeffrey. And so the player of Crunkfree said, I'm going to do Crunkfree.
Yes. So,
from a half-orc and half-human.
Crunkfree, it was a fastidiously neat half-orc. Like, always cleaning up after everything. And it says lived with his mom.
Kind of.
Kind of. I don't remember what that meant.
I don't know. There was another sentence after
that was that.
Is that about awkward?
That was about other stuff.
Because Crunkfree has a catchphrase
is not particularly Crunkfree had the catchphrase
awkward.
For any time that there was any sort of remotely socially awkward situation, or just an awkward situation in general, which happens a lot when you have this band of sundry misfits gathering together and going on adventures.
That's right.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think maybe his mom lived at the Temple of Shellen for a while or something, and that's why he kind of lived with his mom, but I can't remember anymore.
We could do a Lucille later because she has a ridiculously long and tragic
backstory.
Lainey's not quite a PC.
It's not really a PC. So we can talk about her later. Red Black was the first character of that one.
Are we gonna do Lorena?
So Lorena, a human cleric of Shellen, was a happy and friendly and helpful painter who was only with the party for a very short time, because by the end of the first session, she had been so traumatized by the events of the first session that she decided that adventuring wasn't for her. And the player came in with a new character for the next session.
That's true. But she was just very friendly and very artistic, and a sister of that player's character in Rise of the Runelords, who died in Rise of the Runelords and then had another sister in Rise of the Runelords, and all of them were basically the same build.
Elena, Laren, and Lorena were all human clerics of Shellen with essentially the same build, and they were all sisters.
Yes. But two of them lived in Varicia, and one of them lived in Cheliax.
And one of them lived in
Which,
Cheliax.
It could happen.
I think what happened here though, like out of game, is that the player is like, I think this character that I made is too happy and cheerful for sort of the tone of this campaign,
and too traumatized by the events of the first session.
And probably too traumatized by the events of the first session. So I want to bring in someone else. This is the same player who in my Kingmaker game was the one who came in with a rotating cast of characters. So this player also, more so than any other player that we've had in our group, sometimes likes to say, hey, you know what, I want to switch to a different character.
Yep, although this time it was a lot more it was really justified. It happened early, and then he played that character for the rest of the time. Yeah. Soren wasn't even here until part 3 or something.
Yeah.
Stav was there at least early on.
Yeah. Stav was a elven paladin of starting with as Torag, to start with. And I was not an experienced enough GM to realize, hey, elven paladin of Torag, maybe there should be some story here, or some reason why you care about dwarves at all.
He said that he lived with dwarves for a little while.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually
do
defend
anything
dwarves.
To defend.
He just liked cooking food for people.
Yes.
And inviting people to eat food with him. Mm-hmm. He was a very nice guy, but probably not a paladin of Torag.
Yes.
Stav
eventually, and I don't remember what point along the campaign it is, so I might as well just talk about it now. Eventually I realized that this was a bit weird, and had him sort of have dreams that indicated that if you want to keep following Torag, you better actually start doing dwarf stuff.
I think there was a dwarf who was being attacked, his home and the dwarf section of town was being destroyed, and then Stav went and did something else.
Yeah. And then he had dreams that were you're not defending the dwarves, and he's like, yeah, I guess Torag really isn't my bag, and then he switched to be a paladin of Sarenrae.
That's true.
And then the story made more sense. So let's do Elysiel first before we get into the NPC Lady Axis, who existed in large part to because Mark created her with me to help get things back on track partway through.
Yep. And also potentially as a backup character, because I knew that low levels in PF1 you could just die immediately.
So, Alicia was actually the 17 layers of tragic backstory character.
Alicia was for sure the most tragic backstory in that particular campaign.
Alicia may be the most tragic backstory. I mean, it's not a tragic backstory Olympics, but the most tragic backstory of any character that I've seen in one of her home campaigns.
Let me see about that. So, Alicia versus Edward. Alicia's
you're right. No,
which is more tragic?
Having your entire
family assassinated, or being thrown on the streets as a reject by your mother after she realized that you were a tiefling at the age of like 1 year old.
Surviving only because your imaginary friend protects you.
Yes.
Then making some friends as a street urchin. After which point, when your tiefling heritage manifests, they all reject you as well, and then you only have your imaginary friend to keep you company?
Yep. I don't know. They could both be pretty tragic.
So yeah, that was Alicia's.
What about Big Al, who was kidnapped from Mendev by demons, pulled into the world wound in a fortress of demons where they injected him with demon blood in an attempt to corrupt him or use him, and then his only friend was the daughter of a paladin who told him to be strong. She was killed. He thought that her soul was placed into his sword, except for that it was actually a demon that was in the sword, pretending to be her all along to trick him into bringing that demon lord into the world.
So the one who had been with him as a steadfast companion, encouraging him to be brave, was all a lie and just a demon lord manipulating his feelings.
Woman was just dead.
Yep.
So what about that?
That was also a pretty tragic backstory.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know why, but well, let's just say the tragic backstory trope is not lost on the players in our home group. From tragic beginnings.
Katrina said that the tiefling wins the tragedy competition, although the fight, Big Al, is pretty bad too. Alright.
Well, you know what? At least Alicia had her imaginary friend.
Let's see.
It's not so imaginary after all, as it turns out.
It says Alicia lives in the slums of West Crown with her imaginary friend, Mr. Kitty. As a tiefling with Arrhenius heritage, Alicia has small beginnings of wings on her back that are covered in white feathers, and her eyes are large and violet flecked with gold. Her hair is silvery blonde, her features are otherworldly. Her tiefling traits did not manifest until she was 13 years old, till which point she was a happy, outgoing, and playful child with many friends among the other urchins in the slums, and young lads with secret crushes on her. However, once her tiefling heritage was revealed, they all turned on her. Oh yeah, she has really high charisma because we rolled 1d100 chart of tiefling traits that was in Council of Thieves, and it got +2 charisma on a character that already had almost the highest possible charisma.
Yeah.
She tried to explain to them that she hadn't changed inside, that she was the same at Alicia they knew, but they drove her away with stones and hateful words. The only one who remained was Mr. Kitty, her imaginary talking cat friend.
I think that and then, So she became very shy and withdrawn, and people tried to take advantage of her in various ways, and she basically came to trust no one except her imaginary friend, Mr. Kitty.
Yep. And then she has some theological issues that she has to deal with. Well, actually, they weren't as much of issues until later in the campaign, I suppose.
Yeah.
She just was a worshiper of Iomedae since she was very little, and recently has begun to venerate Shallan as well, praying to the Eternal Rose to remove her curse and make her look like everyone else. Had several long discussions with the Paladin NPC, who is a fellow tiefling that we are about to talk about, who tried to convince Alicia that each and every person's unique beauty is a gift to be embraced, particularly someone who is as special as Alicia, but the Paladin has had no success in this.
Part of the problem there is that the Paladin, while being a tiefling, had just, like, tiny little easily concealable fangs, and, like, she went around being like, I'm a tiefling, everyone!
She
but,
could have passed as human, but she wanted to tell people she was a tiefling, the Paladin.
So Alicia's like, that's easy for you to say. You're gorgeous and everyone loves you.
Whereas Alicia's wings, like wing stumps, she's like tried to cut them off and then like bind her back, and they always grow back painfully, no matter how many times she does. But she does it anyway, ritualistically.
Yeah, Alicia was not a happy character.
Paladin has no success in this, and limited success with sessions meant to help Alicia stop flinching when it looks like another person might touch her, because she's expecting to be attacked.
Yep.
From living on the streets.
Yeah, so Mark brought in this tragic, ridiculously tragic.
Cole says major Yennefer vibes from The Witcher.
Yeah. So, well, at least, you know, Mr. Kitty was not actually imaginary, though, all along. Mr. Kitty really was Alicia's protector as
an Eidolon.
And as her Eidolon.
Playtest summoner. Also, the final rules of the summoner, where when you go to sleep, your Eidolon goes away, legitimately stopped my backstory from working.
So we
kept it so that it doesn't go away when you go to sleep. Because the idea was that it was a manifested Eidolon, and the only reason she survived on the streets is while she was sleeping, her Eidolon protected her.
Mm-hmm.
She makes you sad. Well, she had a long and interesting and kind of I would say mostly good story during Council of Thieves, although it didn't always go exactly in the direction that Laniaxis wanted.
Yes. Speaking of Laniaxis, yeah, Laniaxis, a tiefling paladin of Shelyn, who
she's unlike Alicia, who was devil-blooded, Arrhenius-blooded. Lani is pit-born, demon-blooded in Cheliax, and part succubus. But she became a paladin and very lawful good to try to keep her demonic, chaotic nature under control. Where it's like, even Shelyn's neutral good, but Laniaxis is more lawful than Shelyn because it's like discipline, and that worked out for her. She's also a famous actress, and they put her on billboards, and they won't show her fangs in the pictures, which you also can't see if she doesn't, like, open her mouth up and point to the fact that she has them.
So, like, I'm a tiefling, see? Like, was definitely a thing that she did.
Yep. She would show it off, but people just glossed it over because she was a famous actress who also got charisma on the D100 shuttle. She rolled twice because she took the feat that's, like, roll multiple times. Or what is it? You get 2 traits, but you also roll twice for each of them, so you actually rolled 4 times.
It's something like that. She got that one too. Yeah.
She has how much charisma? Like, so much at this level.
She had at 11th level, she had 24 base plus 4 from an item, so 28. Yeah.
Which means that she started above 20.
Yes.
So much charisma in this campaign with the tieflings.
There was a lot of charisma in this campaign with the tieflings, and then
she's also, in addition to being a famous actress, a counselor at the Temple of Shelyn.
Yes.
Which means not CILOR like in Kingmaker the role, but like SELOR, like she counseled people who needed help psychologically. And that's part of what she was doing with Alicia when she met Alicia in the West Crown slums, is trying to help counsel her.
Yeah.
Risky adores the D100 tables for scions. They definitely had a huge effect on the campaign. What was Lainey's other... I think it was CMD.
Yeah.
Which is not very interesting. But I think her other effect was
CMD.
CMD. Yep.
So that's what we had at this point. We will soon be introducing other characters.
Yes. The other NPCs that are in the organization that you join quickly off soon became like very important and central because the PCs got pretty attached to some of them, or maybe like not happy with others of them, such as our leader, Mr. Racist Against Tieflings. But we'll get to that soon enough.
Alrighty. So, Council of Thieves, the AP, takes place primarily, pretty much exclusively in West Crown, which is an Italy-shaped port city.
That's right. It's funny because it's based on Venice, clearly, with the gondolas and all of the canals going through it. But it is not shaped like Venice. It is shaped like Italy, like the whole country of Italy. But it's a city that's shaped like Italy.
So, West Crown definitely, like you said, based on Venice, it definitely pulls from Italy-themed story tropes as well, and it's got the gondolas. It has a lot of Italian-inspired names.
The Dotari are the guards.
Yes, the Dotari are the guards. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So West Crown. West Crown is not the capital of Cheliax Agorian. That is even more so directly under the thumb of Thrun. It's sort of a little bit separated. It's not quite as
the old capital.
Directly ruled. It's the old
biggest
capital.
City by a mile. But
yes, West Crown is the place where it was predicted that when Aroden came back and was going to ascend and was going to bring in, or I mean, he's a god, but was going to step in and was going to become the ruler of Cheliax and ascend,
become a god king,
and bring
golden
forth
age.
a golden age for Cheliax and the world, and this was going to be the center of everything.
But it was an age of lost omens instead.
And Aroden died, and nobody knows what happened, and so. And then there's the Eye of Abednego appeared, and all sorts of things happened. Prophecy was no longer going to be what you can rely upon, and this whole situation set off the issues in Cheliax, where there was civil war and conflict, and House Thrun, with the help of infernal powers, managed to rise to the top.
Yep, and. Meanwhile, though, West Crown still has tons of Aroden iconography and, like, weird Aroden stuff that is around in the city.
So West Crown is a city that went from, we're going to be the center of a new golden age, to sort of this sense of lost potential and lost purpose.
And we're not the capital. There's weird shadowy monsters that are here now. Did Thrun send them? Who sent them? Why are they here?
Well, I mean,
Nobody
few people
knows
thought that
why.
Thrun sent them.
Some people thought that Thrun sent them, but they just weren't devils, and they didn't match what was going on.
The Shadow Beasts were a major threat in West Crown. The idea is that if you're outside after dark, Shadow Beasts might come and hunt you. And
it's not a rumor. Everyone in the city knew that there legitimately are shadowy beasts in the darkness.
Yes.
It's the reason why Mr. Kitty needed to be able to be active at night. It's not. I mean, slums are already a very dangerous place for an infant to live, but when there's also shadow beasts, it's not good.
Yes. And these, so then there were curfews to impose to keep people from being hunted down by the shadow beast, because once it got to be after dark, I mean, the Dotari wouldn't really be out there to protect you if you broke the curfew.
If you were in the slums, they were never there
If you were there, because the Dotari were run by someone who was kind of just a slacker and had the position because of his family connections, and so delegated running it to 4 lieutenants. And the lieutenant of the Rundatari, the section that was responsible for patrolling the slums, was really just like, oh, but my job is to make sure that things don't come out of the slums to attack the rich people, and didn't really actually help anyone in the slums.
That's true. There was, I think, 1 or 2 of the 4 lieutenants were, like, really admirable, but not the one for the slums. Because you don't get the post of being the one for the slums if you're the best of the 4 lieutenants.
Yeah, no, the Dotari and other segments of the city.
Some of the Dotari were really, really, like, good and people and very loyal, but the one in the slums was, like, pretty corrupt.
And Rundatari coming from ruins, because there were a lot of ruined parts of West Crown that got abandoned from the past, and places that got abandoned
is shrinking.
Because the population has been continually shrinking.
And they're just, like, populated by not just people who can't afford to live in other places, but, like, evil cabals and, like,
thieves
guilds, assassins, like cults of Iseth, the queen of the original Arrhenius who fell, and queen of the night, and just all sorts of really bad stuff that's just in those ruined areas that you
Mhm.
wouldn't even necessarily even call the slums because they're like the outer ruins beyond a giant wall.
Yeah.
That even the regular slums are kind of protected from some of the really bad stuff and just monsters in there. It was not good.
So that's the general sense of what's going on in West Crown to start things off. As per the player's guide, the players all built characters who would be interested in improving the lot of making things better in West Crown. But weren't necessarily looking to overthrow House Thrune, because overthrowing House Thrune is beyond the scope of this adventure.
It's
TM.
not even remotely related to what happens in the adventure path in even a small or minute way.
Yes.
There's literally no amount of doing that is in the adventure path, and the player's guide makes it very clear. So we were all, maybe not necessarily happy with Asmodeus and Thrune, but loyal citizens of Cheliax who just had a bit of heroism and wanted West Crown to become better and to save the knights from the Shadow Beasts.
So this is the lead up to when they all met in a tavern. The PCs are all sent letters that say, "Hey, would you like to come talk to me about how we can make West Crown a better place? Free dinner if you come listen to my pitch." And through some combination of, "I'd like to help make West Crown a better place," and "Hey, free dinner might as well." The PCs...
Carl was definitely free food.
Yes.
Also, I think that they sent Lainey to get Elysial because
Yes.
Lainey was already associated with this group.
Mm-hmm.
And the letter did not work.
Yes. The letter did not work. Elysial did
Lainey
not
thought
trust.
that having Elysial join this group would help her make some friends and raise her self-esteem.
Yes. So she said, "Oh, come on, let's go talk to these people. It'll be okay. We'll just get some dinner. You'll meet them. If you don't like them, you don't have to spend time with them again. But I think that you can make some friends here, and I think that you'll feel better if you give them a chance."
Okay.
Yeah. So it was sort of like that. And this was one of the first times that Lainey was used to be like, "Come on, Elysial.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it."
She's definitely used as that multiple times.
Yes. So with this preamble, the PCs all go to a meeting at Vizio's Tavern, where they meet the rather spirited and revolutionary-minded Janovan. Janovan, who was rather on edge at the time because the leader of this organization that she was going to be recruiting the PCs to, Ariel, a half-elf cleric of Iomade, who she was very close with.
Romantically involved with.
The AP had set them up as being more like friends, and like that Ariel was more of a mentor, but I needed a little bit more of an emotional catalyst ultimately to describe why she gave such a presentation, so I decided to make them lovers instead. Because when the PCs show up, Janovan gives a speech that ends in the
why don't you just read
again. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me here.
And Linda did just read the box text
I have
here.
chosen each of you for a singular reason. Every one of you here, myself included, has suffered, whether we realize it or not. I have lived in West Crown my whole life. And though I love the city, I must admit, as much you, that despite our peace and prosperity, we continue to suffer. Fear should not be an expected part of life, and yet each night brings fear to our doorsteps. Yes, West Crown may have been safe from war and famine for nearly 70 years, and yes, our business has prospered. But this safety and prosperity has been bought in the coinage and fear of prayers to hell. Other lands live free from tyranny. Other cities do not fear the night. Other governments do not cede the streets to monsters of infernal shadows. West Crown was once such a place, and wants to be such a place again. West Crown is not only her people. West Crown is our friends, and our neighbors, our mothers and our fathers, our siblings and cousins, our sons and daughters. With but a small group of supporters and dedicated brothers and sisters, we can earn the trust and admiration of those people. A West Crown free of those shadowy beasts that stalk our streets is one step closer to a West Crown free of the devil that is the thrice-damned House of Thrune. At which point the PCs collectively go, wait, what?
We have been following until the last sentence. Everything she said. But then...
A West Crown free of the thrice-down House of Thrune. Yeah, the PCs really were like, shh, shh. Don't yell that sort of stuff.
We literally said, do you want the Hell Knights of the Order of the Rack to hear that? What are you talking about? We want to help the city. That doesn't mean we want to overthrow the government. The Hell Knights are going to show up because the player's guide was like, the Hell Knights are everywhere and they're policing thought crimes and we were all like, Hell Knights, no.
And
That's
she's
the
like,
worst
no,
thing that could happen. She's like, oh, come on, the Hell Knights are nowhere nearby. The next thing that happens
is
like
that,
seconds later after she says that,
a frightened-looking teenager, Morosino, who later gained the code name Albatross because of this, ran up to the door and knocked on the door and said, "They've got Ariel! They've got Ariel!" And not only was he saying they've got Ariel, as in the Hell Knights have captured Ariel, the leader of the organization, but also he had brought Hell Knights on his tail that were following him.
That's right. The Hell Knights were following him, so he led them directly to the base.
The Jatari nabbed Ariel, and the Hell Knights of the Rack are trying to get custody of him. There's a bunch of Hell Knights on their way here now. I only just made it here. They've already surrounded us. So,
I mean, hearing his speech again, maybe they already knew that this place was a place to come, and he was warning us, but he sure made it sound like they followed him there, when we were playing it.
Yeah.
And that he was like, I'm being followed by Hell Knights.
And that it's like Hell Knights, but yeah, exactly.
But anyway.
You assumed that they had, anyway, he got the codename Albatross.
Whether or not he actually saved us because they were going to come here anyway, we thought that he led them there. The main point was, we were already like, shh, shut up, the Hell Knights are going to hear you. We don't want to overthrow the government just to save the city. And she's like, oh no, the Hell Knights are not. Oh, the Hell Knights have surrounded and they're cracking down. And we were like, we're going to get arrested for being with you, but we don't like you.
So she's
we were questioning, like, can we just turn this person in and not get screwed over? And then it's like, no, they're just gonna assume we're part of this because we were eating her food.
Yeah, and Lainey said something about like actually being friends with her, and so then she's like, don't take your chances with them. We need to escape. And she opens a secret hatch down into the sewers. And the PCs are all like, what the heck?
Or maybe even what the hell?
Or even what the hell just happened? Yes. So indeed, this was not just Hell Knights. This was the Order of the Rack.
Because Linda, we're not going to avoid saying the word hell in this episode since Hell Knights have it every time we say Hell Knight.
What the hell? Yes. Okay. So yes, the Hell Knights of the Order of the Rack had come. As Mark said, in charge of policing thought and in charge of making sure that the histories are all correct and true. Where the definition of correct and true is whatever House Thrune says it is.
That's right.
Narrator's note. It was not correct and true.
How else would you decide what was correct and true if it wasn't what House Thrune said?
Revisionist history for sure. So this was the oldest of the Hell Knights orders. Their greatest obsession was the prevention of rebellion. Ariel's known affiliation with the Church of Iomedae had unfortunately attracted the attention of the Dotari. Ariel was arrested, and the Hell Knights set up to let him flee, hoping that would eventually lead them to Ariel's hideout and his fellow conspirators, and then they could recapture him.
So they did actually let more. So he was actually leading them to us. They didn't know where it was.
Yes.
Okay, we were right.
No, you were right. You were right. But they had recaptured him, and So that people would recognize that, and Morosino would witness it and then lead them back. So now they knew that Ariel was in the hands of these Hell Knights. The PCs did indeed decide to flee into the sewers, which is where we had our first combats of the game. And the sewers presentation in this AP is really interesting. It's presented as sort of a randomized maze where the PCs can along the way have a lot of different encounters. But because this was the first adventure path for Pathfinder, it had a number of encounters that was appropriate to level up in D&D 3.5, which was not enough. So these sort of randomized encounters was not enough. But before we get into what I added there, definitely this was very atmospherically terrifying because, well, I was running into my first set of combat encounters with the group, and I was nervous as all hell. So I was definitely projecting a lot of nervous energy here. I was describing how the PCs heard the clanking armor and the shuffling footsteps of the Hell Knights in pursuit. How they were in these stinky and dark sewers. The question was, should we have light? If we have light, are they going to see us? But we have to have light so we don't trip over ourselves because we don't know where we're going and we're running through the sewers.
Louise says, Hell Knights of the Order of Anxiety.
Yes. Mr. Kitty was stalking behind and around the PCs.
Oh yeah, so Mr. Kitty's shtick is also that he's not going to disabuse Elysiel of the fact that he's an imaginary friend. So he was always hiding and no one had seen him.
Yes.
And so he was hiding in a closet. He eventually went down into the sewers after the group, but he was behind the party by enough that he was still in the leash of an Eidolon, but was also just, we didn't see him.
And Mr. Kitty was fighting a lot of things for the PCs.
Anytime we were getting back attacked,
yes,
they wound up attacking Mr. Kitty alone.
Yes, which meant that Mr. Kitty took a lot of damage. Damage that he started needing to pass over to Elysiel, so he didn't get disappeared with lifelink. So, not knowing that Mr. Kitty was back there, anyone, just notice vicious claw wounds ripping themselves open on Elysiel.
She would just scream, and like these slashes and cuts or whatever the wounds were would just appear on her.
So it was like, are the shadow beasts in the sewers? Are the shadow beasts invisible? What's even going on?
We sometimes heard the combats behind us and came back to just find things that had been clawed and bitten and killed because Mr. Kitty had defeated them.
So then there was this sense that there was this like shadow monster that was stalking them and was attacking Elysiel, and there was no way to fight it, and it was killing the things that were behind them, and oh my gosh, what's going on? It was this situation that caused the Shovel Knight player to the player of the Shovel Knight cleric to be like, no.
Yeah, what really got the nervous energy up was we eventually came upon some of the Armigers of the Order of the Rack.
Yes.
They just happened to stumble across us because they searched down a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. And they caught up. And Carl color sprayed them and we were just going to run off. But he was like, no, they're too close. So he wound up coup de gracing them with his sight.
So then it's like, no, you just murdered a group of Hell Knights.
You just killed a group of Hell Knights. Now we're in for murder. We actually did commit a crime.
Yeah. Because
he was just so on edge. He's like, no, we can't.
We have to kill them. Color spray coup de grace.
Mm-hmm. And then everyone was freaking out and we just kept going. And apparently, like, Janovan has the fleet feet, and so she, like, runs off ahead of you and is like, follow these signs.
Mm-hmm. What the AP had said is, like, once you feel that the players are comfortable making their own decisions, and she's given them the sense of the signs, come up with some excuse to have Janovan leave so that the NPC isn't taking the lead. So, Janovan was faster than everyone with the fleet feet. And she ran ahead to scout for dangers ahead and told the PCs to follow the signs.
To see if the other second hideout was compromised or whatever. Follow the signs, everybody!
follow the slash mark signs through the dangerous through the slasher film that you found yourself in.
That's right.
So then the sewer is constructed sort of like a maze where the GM can just put in encounters wherever they want. So there's a variety of encounters. They encountered the Hell Knight Patrol, some ooze bugs, some undead. They found a treasure cache. The ooze bugs were these little torble creatures, strange amorphous predators called ooze bugs.
Torbles are fun. They're a cool creature.
They're the unofficial mascot of those who dwell and work within the city sewers. And they also found some undead as well, some skeletons and zombies, and some sewer goblins, and some brown mold and shriekers and all sorts of stuff. But even after I'd thrown them all of these specified encounters in the, all the specified encounters that were in the AP, that wasn't enough XP. So, so I came up with my first mini dungeon. And my first mini dungeon was a dungeon of goblin were-rats. So we had their leader White Chin, a natural were-rat goblin rogue. They had a natural were-rat cleric of Lamashtu, a goblin cleric of Lamashtu, and a variety of afflicted lycanthrope goblin warriors who populated this place. The PCs took down this group of goblins and took their stuff on their way to escape the sewers. I see Mark has found our initial post about what happened here.
Yep. Oh, right, because also Linda didn't want the paladin, the NPC, to have to be fighting with us either, so she left and to try to, like, as a paladin, talk down the Dotari / Paladins.
Oh, that's right.
Be like, maybe I can explain this, that there's not a problem here since I'm a paladin and known to follow the law.
Yeah, so maybe she could, she was trying to delay issues and help them out.
Yep.
Because, it was important that she wasn't with you, that she hung back to try to cover for you guys.
Yep.
And didn't go down into the sewers.
That's correct.
Yes.
Because, yeah, the Goblin Were-Rats were a later session, though.
That's right. They were a later session.
You didn't add anything else to this. We made it to the end. We had not gotten enough XP
yet at
that point
right.
to level
The Goblin Were-Rats were added later.
Yeah. You added it as an extra mission that we went on.
That's right. I was seeing White Chin, and then I was like, wait a minute, wasn't White Chin a later mission?
Yes.
Okay. That explains it. That was later on. You didn't have enough XP.
We made it to the end. We had not leveled up. We made it to the base. And people were so freaked out. And at that point, Linda called the session. And I posted I had some Summoner playtest posts, but like one of my earliest posts on Paizo.com was like, I'm a player in a Council of Thieves game. Please avoid spoilers except in blocks. Our group enjoys roleplay more than dungeon crawls. I'm always usually the GM. I heard great things about Council of Thieves, so I bought it for one of the others in our group to run it. I heard that PCs that are too mercenary can mess with the intro to the adventure. Every player carefully read the player's guide, and we started with 3 good aligned PCs, all neutral or lawful good, a paladin and a cleric of Shelyn, a summoner. We had all read the player's guide and Shellyax book, and we're really into the 1984-like Shellyax mindset. We made it just past the sewers now. I don't know how to spell her name, but Genevieve, it was spelled wrong, is really has turned off everyone in the party except for the more opportunistic gnome. The GM specifically toned her down from the module. How is everyone getting their groups to side with her without taking the West Crown Firebrand trait? Her release would cause her to be executed by House Third. It makes sense she has to be extremely careful. The module takes her vagueness to extremes. The GM modified her to give more information than she was supposed to give, and she still wound up sketching out pretty much everyone in the group due to her incredible vagueness. The summoner made a knowledge local check to know that the bar had been purchased, but sketchily not actually put into use. It flat out stated to Jen that this implies the bar was a front for a thieves guild or that shadowy organization. The Shelyn duo wanted to hold the meeting in their own temple and didn't seem convinced because Jen was still avoiding specifics. They thought helping West Crown could be best done under the purview of the Church of Shelyn rather than some vague, sketchy statements by Jen. Because of this, they were extremely hesitant to come along and did so with some reluctance, only because an NPC paladin acquaintance of all the non-gnome characters. An idea I had to help the GM tie us all in, recommended that it was a good idea to listen to what Jen had to say. Same with the summoner, who was an abused tiefling and trusted NPC paladin more than anyone else. The gnome was offered 3 gold pieces and dinner to hear her out and gladly accepted, since he lives in the slums and that can feed him for at least a week. The more mercenary character had the least issues so far. After arriving at the bar, there was some great role-playing. Content of the adventure is top-notch. The Sean Cleric players at the end, at the very least, this will be an awesome one-shot. Then the NPC Paladin left. The GM didn't want us to have too much
That's right.
NPCs in the sewers, and Jen gave her
great,
speech.
yeah.
Oh, right, she left before the speech.
That's right.
The beginning of the speech was pretty reasonable, though still very vague, and a few uncomfortably seditious implications were spread throughout. But the end of the speech brought a collective gasp to all the PCs. Bring down the thrice-damned House of Thrune, or something very similar, Jen shouted with great gusto. Immediately, no one in the party wanted to be there. The summoner started shaking and eyed the door, which she requested be kept unlocked. She nearly bolted right then. Pretty much every PC pointed out that, pointed out that when the moment one of her friends was captured, a moment that we hadn't realized yet had already occurred. Oh, that once one of her friends was captured, which hadn't realized had already occurred. The trail of people who heard of these statements would lead to the PCs. They could either turn her in now or be killed for withholding that information when they were caught. To be fair, we expected to be caught because the player's guide said that the Hell Knights were amazing and would always catch you, and etc.
You didn't realize that
we had no idea how incompetent they would turn out to be.
You had no idea that
these
were like newbie trainee Hell Knights who were doing.
Why would you send the worst Hell Knights? Like, it all said that they were so awesome. The Paladin pointed out, and we're not talking about Lainey now, she had left, but the half-orc Paladin pointed out, while the Hell Knights were not a legitimate authority, House Thune is. They hold the country together no matter what other ills they perform, and her code of conduct explicitly states she shouldn't be working with someone who wants to overthrow the government. I heard some groups who wanted to overthrow Thrune after starting this AP and assumed it was just overzealous players who just hated Thrune, but the text does sort of throw that at you, I guess. If we had very chaotic characters, it might have caught on, but anyway, then the boy came with news that the half-elf guy had been captured. Again, everyone in the party was into the Chaloxy mindset where we're afraid of the Hell Knights. The summoner started crying and said they were all going to be caught and tortured unless they turned themselves in. When they questioned the half-elf, he'd lead the Hell Knights to Jen, she would lead the Hell Knights to the PCs through truth-telling magic, etc. It would happen. Jen managed to convince the party to get into the sewers. The Eidolon wound up trapped in the bar's back room above because no one knew about him but the summoner. She thought he was an imaginary friend. At this point, Jen tried to show us a sign, but we all rolled 9 or less on perception and didn't see it. The module apparently wanted Jen to run away and leave the party to find their way through alone, or in our case, get lost. Never mind.
Oh, that's right.
The young boy she had with her, which would stop her from using her feet to outrun
That's
all
right.
the
I had her
encounters.
stay because you couldn't succeed at a DC 9.
The GM had been trying to make her a little bit less out there to get us more likely to take to her and her stick along. Summoner didn't like the creepy atmosphere of the sewers, as decided the sewer thing was the most successful creepy sequence our group had seen in a long time. I don't know if it's as intended. The player of the gnome said the whole thing could have been an hour-long sequence in a horror movie. When the Hell Knights split into groups of 3, the Eidolon killed them off, except 3, and the summoner announced the Hell Knights were gone and the group could just go back to the bar. Jen insisted that
how would you possibly
we go forward, and after running back slightly and finding the Hell Knights' unconscious bodies, the group acquiesced. Meanwhile, the summoner was taking some of the Eidolon's wound, causing her to cry in pain as slashes appeared over her body, seemingly without cause. The Eidolon continued ahead of the group and killed the encounters. When the last 3 Hell Knights caught up with the party, the gnome freaked when he realized they knew his face now, and he color sprayed them all and started hacking them to bits with his war axe. Oh, I guess he had a war axe at that point, not a scythe. The paladin tried to stop him, was horrified at his failure, causing him to sort of just washing his hands like Lady Macbeth and cleaning his room 5 times.
Yes.
When we left the sewers, everyone except the gnome, who was fine working with Jen, insisted they leave immediately and take the poor summoner to the Temple of Shellet. The cleric went to the high priest to say she thinks Jen is dangerous and preys on those with troubled past to recruit them for her own anarchist agenda. This is the PC that left the group. The paladin went on his cleaning spree. Meanwhile, especially since we were quite enjoying all the role-playing and character interaction, this left the GM with the best option of just trying to figure out what was going on. The cleric scrapped the character and made one that was part of the organization. I came up with the idea that we might use that maybe the NPC Paladin was captured by the Hell Knights when she left the bar. This gets us to work with the group to rescue her because everyone else in the party likes the Paladin, but the cleric still does not like Jen, and the other good characters think, because of her vagueness in the way she says things about Thune, that she wants to cause anarchy more than she wants to help people. The gnome is fine because the pay is good. A few gold is a lot to him. We suggested the GM find another member of the organization who can explain Jen is not really representative of their actual goals, is a bit out there, and is extra tense because her lover is about to be tortured by Hell Knights. I hope this is true. The party would be happy to help West Crom, but Jen doesn't genuinely seem like she wants to do that in a reasonable way.
That Chilaxians who are okay with Thrune but don't want to...
Heard people say that the Hell Knights might have been overused as antagonists early on. This might be so. Does anyone have any thoughts or ideas? And yeah, I posted that on Paizo.com, and people had a lot of great ideas on Paizo.com. That Linda definitely used some of the ideas that we mentioned there, and some of the ideas from Paizo.com. So thanks to the Paizo.com community for always offering advice on APs.
For saving them, because honestly, like, it was a great session, but at the end of the But at the end of that, like, I was thinking, oh gosh, did I mess up? Like, none of the PCs want to do this adventure. Like, but I just read what the box text said, and they built characters based on the player's guide, and oh gosh, I don't know, Mark, help. And Mark posted that on Paizo.com, and so we were fortunately with only one with the loss of only one character, I'm just not going to keep doing this. We were able to get things back, because indeed we had said then that the Paladin Lane Axis had also been captured by the Hell Knights. So
we replaced the cleric with a rogue who was part of the organization already.
Yes, who went by the codename Red Black, and I believe didn't ever specify what his actual name was ever,
or actual gender. But generally seemed to be male and using he/him.
The identity Red Black used he/him, so yes. That's what we did.
Yep. But he was a paranoid Galton rogue who's paranoid about identity and safe information. Red Black is a reference to data security, red and black information. And that's why his name was Red Black, although he wore a red and black domino mask and constantly was telling people that they were not using the red. It's like, now this information is in the red, and people just didn't understand what he was trying to say.
What he was talking about. And he was like very, very like information security. So this also set up a good situation where the player of when the PCs did reach the base of the organization, the player of the character who had left the party because she was too far out there was able to start by berating that NPC for not doing good information security. It's like, what are you thinking? So in a way, because one of the first things that I needed to do, and this was also suggested on Paizo.com, I believe, was establish that Janovin's behavior there was not typical for the organization. And this was done in part by having one of the PCs first come on screen by berating her, which also made him more trustworthy.
Amaya Kaijutsu, according to this diary of Elysiel, that I found on an external hard drive, Amaya Kaijutsu also said that Janovin was more extreme
than everyone
else in the group about hating Thieves.
EVRYWON.
And that she's not in charge, which we thought.
Yes.
That she was in charge.
But that the leader was kidnapped, and she wanted to do that.
Yep.
And then, basically, the PCs were like, okay, you know what? We are going to go free Ariel and Lane Axis, because Lane Axis had also been captured. We're not sure exactly what we're going to do after this, but it does seem like these other people in the group are more reasonable, and we just had like the worst first impression ever.
Because the AP gives a ton of other people in the group, one for each character class that could eventually become that class, that are like, they're NPC classes.
Yeah.
But they're like, there's Tarvi who wants to be a wizard, and Amaya who wants to be a bard, and is a glass blower, and they each have their own personalities.
Who wants to be a paladin.
Yep.
Who is a
very lawyer person.
Scribe/lawyer. VT who wants to be a druid and is a wood carver. There were a lot of.
Yep. Now the question is, do people on the stream want to hear Elysiel's diary about that iconic event of the sewers? Because we actually haven't. It also goes one day into the next part, but we shouldn't do that until Linda actually gives her GM's perspective of it. But we have 3 entries that are like leading up to the sewers from Alicia's diary. It doesn't have the full impact because she
you could also
I could, but yeah, she misspells things a lot by using homophones because she didn't really learn traditionally to read and write, but also has lawful instincts that cause her to not spell something incorrectly that often, just wrong, but she has no idea that those are different words or are spelled differently.
I feel like we've covered this part of the adventure fairly thoroughly. So if there's like a particular quote that you want to pull.
No, I don't know. It doesn't look like anybody says that they want to see it anyway, so let's move on.
Well, it's certainly useful for reminding us of what happened there.
Yes. It definitely does. Also, that post...
Oh, wait, no, Ular wants to hear some of it.
No, Ular wants to hear some of it.
Okay.
So, let's see. It says, Dear Diary, I found some great things today.
Spelled like sewer great.
Yes. A pretty cat's eye marble, a good length of string that's still sturdy, and a nice, pretty shoe. And she also draws sketches in her diary, so there's a picture of the shoe. Mr. Kitty says it will be hard to sell the shoe because most people like to have 2 of the same shoe, but this shoe is nice, so maybe it would be okay if it didn't match so well, you know? Sometimes I wonder about the way these other people like to live, filling in the lines and edges in their lives with the same colors every time. It's all kind of dreary, but I guess it's safe, and no doubt it's nice. Lainey came to visit today. She said she had someone to meet me, and that it would be a really special opportunity. I wonder what she meant by that. Afterwards, I decided to pick up a stick and swing it around and pretend to be Lainey fighting shadowy beasts or bad guys or something. I imagined a snarling shadowy dog, sketch of shadowy dog. We got into a big fight, but I totally won because I was being Lainey and Lainey can't lose. Shows a superhero sketch of Lainey in shining armor. She's like so strong and brave and pretty, completely the opposite of me. Diary, why can't I be stronger too? Sometimes I try to tell myself that I should just say hello or something when I see someone new passing by on the streets. I try to make myself be strong and do it, but I can't. Images of all my old friends throwing rocks at me and calling me names flash through my head. Sketch of that. And my heart starts beating faster and faster. I can see myself crying and crying, and I start crying too, at least a little bit, and sometimes more. And I just have to get out of there. Please don't call me a coward. No, I know I'm a coward, but I really try. Next day. Or no, yes, next day. Dear Diary, today Mr. Kitty found a cheese. Sketch of cheese. I don't know where he got it, but it was a yummy cheese. We ate it together. Mr. Kitty is definitely getting bigger all the time. Sketch of Mr. Kitty. He's at least 5 or 6 feet long now from his whiskers to the tip of his tail. He's still such a sweetie, though. I must tell him I love him at least 10 times a day. And when he's out looking around, I always tell him to be careful, even though I know he's always been careful. But I just know I can't lose him, too. He doesn't seem to mind it when I get too much like that, though. Sketch of Alicia hugging Mr. Kitty. Also, I found a neat-looking twisty metal thing today. Sketch of a screw. Mr. Kitty thinks people use it to build things. I think so, too, but it's still pretty. Maybe I could make it into a necklace or something. Next day. Dear Diary, today was a very scary day, but also a lot of different stuff happened today, so I better tell you. So Lainey came back with the person she wanted me to meet, and her name was Janivin. Janivin is kind of crazy, but she seems like she has a good heart. Sketch of Janivin. Janivin bought my string and my shoe I found, and then said there was some free dinner at Vizio's Tavern, but except I remember Mr. Kitty said it was closed, and then a half-elf and woman were opening it really slowly. So I asked if it was a cover for something sketchy with the half-elf, and she said no. Janivin said she worked protection money like the Council of Thieves used to wear. Protect people would pay her money so they wouldn't get hurt too bad. Note, she was, I think, a mercenary guard, but Alicia thought that meant that she was like, oh, might be bad news if you don't pay up. Then I came to get some food, and I found some people I knew before, and a crazy gnome who was like Janivin. Crunkfree was there from the Temple of Shallant. Sketch of Crunkfree healing someone at bedside holding a poultice. For such a courageous and likable guy, he sure seems to get awkward a lot, but everyone likes him anyway. He sometimes stays up all night until a sick person gets better and dances a lot. Crunkfree dances, not the sick person. Kind of like how Lainey is like acting and stuff. Also, Lorena, who makes pretty paintings that are much better than my sketches and somehow can also make really nice music at the same time, and she even knows what the squiggles mean. Sketch of Lorena at an easel with a mini painting, and arrow points to the painting and says, better than this. She also has a piece of paper with squiggles on it that says on top, silly music writing squiggles. And the note I said about before was also there, and his name is Carl. Sketch of Carl with a wide gaping grin holding a war axe and tower shield with swirly colors coming out of his eyes. Carl is very short, but is also scary anyways because he cuts people's heads off with an axe like a murderer in a mystery story. He makes some colors and they fall asleep, and so he cuts their heads off. I think maybe he gets mad because they fall asleep when he's casting a big important spell. Oh yeah, he has really powerful magic because he's a sorcerer or something. He says he's magic.
Well, he says he is magic. Oh yeah, that was one of his
yeah, anyway, he also lives in the slums too, and he makes shoes because he's a gnome, and in the story, when the kind old cobbler was sleeping, gnomes came and made shoes for him. I wonder if he made the shoe I sold to Janovan. Oh right, Janovan. Janovan got us all to come and gave us food, and she waited till we finished so we wouldn't spit out the food on her when she told us what she wanted to say, because it was crazy stuff she said. But after Lainey left first, she also bolted all the windows and doors, which was like very sketchy first of all, and then she said stuff. At first it wasn't so crazy because she said that people were afraid and said in West Crown, or afraid and sad in West Crown, and that we should help, and helping people is good. Iomade and Shellen both teach us to help people if we can. Then the crazy part was when she got said that stuff at the end and moved on from helping people in West Crown to blasphemy against the government when she was saying like, a West Crown rid of these shadowy beasts is one step closer to West Crown free from the devil that is the thrice damned House of Thrun. Sketch of Janovan with a manic look on her face standing atop a table, arm raised, mouth open, as if to shout blasphemy to the world. So I got real scared. Fortunately, Mr. Kitty was already in the closet, and he told me to calm down because the doors and windows were locked, and also nobody would hear it, and also all the other people were upset, but also said to calm down because it's not like Igorian where the Hell Knights and Inquisitors are always watching everyone, and what were the chances the Hell Knights were even anywhere near there? Just then, there was knocking on the door, and Janovan was already twitchy and tense on edge, so she opened the door, and a boy came in. His name was Morosino. Sketch of Morosino. He was being pretty stupid because he came there while Hell Knights were following him, which was dumb because then they found us. It was kind of funny because everyone just said there weren't any Hell Knights there, except it wasn't funny because we were all going to die and then maybe be tortured, or maybe in the other order. Sketch of being tortured by Hell Knights. So, except I thought it might be good to just tell them that Janovan was not us, but everyone said they would torture me anyway because also they hate tieflings like me, and they were right, so we went in the secret sewer exit because I was right and the tavern was a cover for something sketchy, and the Minkai lady said, sketch of Janovan, but then we had to leave Mr. Kitty behind, and we went to the sewer where dangerous monsters that would kill us and arrows that were impossible to find, but Janovan almost ran off without us like a jerk, but she stayed instead like a non-jerk, except partway in, Mr. Kitty said there were no more Hell Knights up there in the tavern, so I said to go back, but Janovan ran after me, and people were all shouting crazy things. They didn't believe me, and then we found the dead bodies of the Hell Knights, all clawed up, like by shadowy beasts, sketch of dead Hell Knights. And I said I told them it was dangerous in the sewers, and we should go back to the tavern. But they didn't listen, even though all the Hell Knights are dead, and I still don't know why, because it was a really stupid and dangerous decision. They were all stupid, and we should have gone back up to the tavern, because then we wouldn't have been attacked by more monsters, and Carl chopped people up with an axe, which he wouldn't have done if we went back.
Lucille's diary doesn't like punctuation.
But I was scared and confused, and you know I have trouble going against a group, so I listened to them saying stupid stuff that was dumb, and we all almost got killed some more. And there were skeletons and goblins and more Hell Knights in the sewers, and not the tavern, and zombies and odiogs and garbage and diseases and rats. Sketch of the party standing at the crossroads, and one side is a comfy tavern with a fire in the fireplace. The other side has all the monsters and hazards mentioned above, and Alicia looking longingly in the safe direction, while everyone else looks the other way with a speech bubble from them coming out that says, duh, let's go this way. And Mr. Kitty got really cold and wet and hurt bad, and I got all scratched up to help Mr. Kitty, and everyone was getting scareder and scareder and freaking out more and more, and so I was so afraid that we were all going to die because we were being stupid if we didn't go back to the tavern. But then the shadowy beast didn't kill us, and we got out somehow at the secret base in the Temple of Aridin. Poor Mr. Kitty was trapped in the sewer below. We ran away from Crazy Janovan and went to the Temple of Shellen. Then Lainey wasn't there, so she must have been kidnapped by Hell Knights, even though she isn't a kid. And then, so Crunkfree was going more crazy because he usually not, but the sewers thing was bad, and he doesn't like being dirty, so he thought he saw Mr. Kitty for a minute, but you can't see other people's imaginary friends. But anyway, Lainey was kidnapped, so I went to go find Janovan's friends, because even though she's kind of crazy and everyone was stupid and went a bad way and almost got us all killed for no reason, they're the only ones who could help save Lainey from the Hell Knights because they want to go kill everyone in House Thune or something. But then it was different. I went to the Temple of Aridin, it was getting dark, and I said Lainey was kidnapped by Hell Knights and we needed help, and I ran back to the Temple of Shellen before the Shadowy Beast came out, so it was still safe. But then the Minkai Glassblower singer girl, Amaya, came, even though it was dark, so it was dangerous. She found us in the temple to talk to us there. Sketch of Amaya. Amaya said Janovan was more extreme than everyone else in the group about hating Thune, but she's not in charge because the half-elf Ariel's in charge, And they're together, so she was sad because he wasn't there, so he was kidnapped by Hell Knights too, and she was worried, so she said crazier stuff than usual stuff that was crazy that she would say. And Maya said that they just want to help people and not to overthrow the government of Cheliax and get us all killed and not help anyone at all. I said I would help to free Lainey and Ariel no matter what, because Lainey is my friend, and she's one of the only people who was ever really nice to me. And Crunkfree wanted to go help Lainey too, so he would too. They paid Carl money, so he said he would come because being crazy with an axe and being magic will be useful for attacking at Hell Knights and getting them free from where they are, and maybe it's Tyrannic House. Only Lorena wouldn't come, and she went absolutely.
She locked herself in her room.
Locked herself in a room and said moody and overly dramatic things like, and then anyway, tomorrow is also going to be really dangerous too, maybe, so we will have to go meet with the organization. That Janavin is one of the in-charge people on stuff. We can save Lainey, so I have to be brave like Lainey will be, so I will be brave because there isn't any other choice than that.
People say beautiful stuff, breathe, and I need a nap now.
There you go. So that is a perspective of one of the characters that wore me out listening. Yeah, it was intense. It was an amazing session, but it was very psychologically hard for some of the characters, and it was just kind of a deep and great role playing experience.
It was an awesome first session. So yeah, that was my first session as a GM for a group. Was when all that stuff happened.
And some of the things there about talking to Amaya were like at the beginning of the second session.
Yeah. Says, I feel Mark's heart racing from here. Well, the character did speak very quickly when she got on edge, and I think Mark was also trying to make sure.
Yosarian says, first ever GM landing that, impressive.
Thank you. It was... Well, once we got past the part where I thought that my group was going to dissolve and I wasn't going to be able to run the AP after all, I was able to bring from that confidence. So it's like, yeah, you know what, I can do this.
This is why Linda gave advice for running tense horror games of like, if you're nervous, your own nervous energy can rub off on the group.
How much did I manage to incorporate their stuff into the AP? How much change did it take? Mainly, it was downplaying Janavin's role and making it more of a, increasing her connection to Ariel to explain why she was so distraught in that time, and that was maybe things that she would think, but not what the organization would go for. And the addition of this character, Lady Axis, and Lady Axis's roles in showing that the organization did have space for people who didn't want those objectives.
Plus, just... there's a shared camaraderie in thinking that someone is extreme, and just the other organization members bad-mouthing Janavin helped us to decide that we were, they're not all like Janavin. She's a one-off in the organization.
Yes.
There were also problems with Ariel that we can get to later after we save him. But, they were all mostly problems specifically with me, with Alicia and with Lady Access.
Yes. Because
he
Ariel
was a reasonable
racist.
person, mostly, other than being a racist against tieflings. That, yeah, we can get to that.
Yep. Definitely one of those things where, if I had been running this AP now, I would have cut out the part where Ariel was racist against tieflings, but I wasn't running it now. I was running it based on being a newbie GM, and so I did more run as written, and then, yeah.
It was an interesting theological debate to have with Alicia, but she was definitely dispirited by it, and it did make a lot of difference in the way that she wound up doing something later on that caused a lot of people to not give Ariel credit for being the leader of the group, even though he was the leader of the group.
Yeah.
That was in part because she didn't like him.
Yes. Well, I mean, in some ways it wound up being good because it allowed the PCs to be even more central in the group and caused Ariel to naturally be sidelined earlier on. But at any rate, that was later on. So yeah, the AP presents 10 NPCs for the organization that has the default name Children's of West Crown. but which the PCs decided to, the players slash PCs decided to name the Blades of Aridin.
Because we wanted a callback to Aridin, who was going to make West Crown this place that was great for everyone. And the fact that we were killing the Shadow Beasts. We were going to make things safe.
But first, they needed to rescue Ariel slash Lady Axis.
Yep.
So,
And we didn't have to go all the way to Tyrannic House, despite the fact that the diary said they might be taking them to Tyrannic House. Tyrannic House being the major outpost of the Hell Knights of the Order of the Rack within the city, whereas their citadel, Raid
is one of, I think that's their citadel. It's definitely one of the citadels.
Yeah, or Rivad or something.
No, Rivad.
Raid is maybe the nail.
Yeah.
Citadel Rivad would be their main impregnable place.
Well, what the PCs didn't realize is that the capture of Ariel and Lady Axis, they weren't considered to be high value targets. So this was more. This whole thing had been a training exercise for newbie Hell Knights, and
we had no way to know that.
They had no way to know that.
I mean, they're not going to say, "Attention! We
are
are the most incompetent newbie Hell Knights. You could probably kill us, even if you're a bunch of ragtag people in a tavern.
Yeah.
We are not the Hell Knights you expect to be here, the full-ranking Hell Knights who one of us could take out all of you on their own. No, we're easy to kill Hell Knights. Please let us in and let us capture and torture you."
Yes. They did not say that. So, but at the very least then, they found this, They tracked this down to a prisoner transport, essentially, where Ariel and Lainey were on the prisoner transport, and they went with another contingent of members of the Blades of Aridin to storm the prisoner transport and rescue their allies. So they went through a variety of possible plans for this ambush. Did they want to try to have some of the other Blades of Aridin split the group? What did they want to do? Color spray was definitely going to be part of the plan regardless, because Carl was a color spray sorcerer, and that was his shtick. And what did you ultimately? I know you did color spray. I know you did a thing where like you wound up climbing on top of the prisoner transport.
Let's see what Elysiel says that we did. The next day. Today we need to save Lainey and also Ariel so that Janovan can calm down some. So I went to Tyrannic House, sketch of Tyrannic House, and pretended to be a servant to ask the stable boy and found out what time the Hell Knights would take Lainey to their citadel Rivad to be tortured, because that would be bad. I found out it was a few hours after High Sun, so I went back and told everyone at the Temple of Aridin, except they already knew. So I also met lots of people that were working for Janovan, like Lainey also, and one named Gorvio had yellow eyes, sketch of Gorvio with yellow eyes, and said he would get some horses, which he is getting now. There were lots of other people too. Let's see. I already said Amaya and Gorvio and Janovan, but there was also Tarvi, and she is really awe-inspiring because she is actually Tarvi Sabine, sketch of Tarvi in shining jewelry, lounging on silk cushions in a palace. That means she's a really important noble, and nobles had to work really hard to earn their wealth, and so they must be really special. She doesn't like it when I call her my lady, and also she knows a lot about jewelry. Also, a half-elf named Red Black. He's from Galt, and so he's a principal about red and black colors and how they're dangerous and can kill you and your friends, and everyone will be tortured, and safety is important, like how Lainey talks about stuff, except with colors instead of animals, like bees. Ermelos, sketch of Ermelos at a forge, makes smith stuff, and he likes to talk about how his dad was a great warrior a lot, and one of his legs doesn't work. Viti has green hair, sketch of Viti carving wood with his hawk, and he likes to carve wood, and he has a hawk too. Fiosa is a nice halfling, sketch of Fiosa praying to Iomade, and she's very devout to Iomade, and apparently Ariel is a cleric of Iomade, and they are friends. Jacopulio is also a small woman like Fiosa, but except she's a gnome and not a halfling, and so apparently that means she's mean to everyone instead of nice, and hates all of the gods. Sketch of Jacopulio with a nasty face. There's also a guy called Sklavo, sketch of Sklavo with spectacles on, carefully reading legal documents, who knows like all the laws and stuff, and he said that Ariel and Lainey's arrests aren't exactly legal unless they find something out by torture, and so they won't be able to come after them, even if we free them, unless they broke, but except Lainey never breaks because she is a hero. Rizzardo is a man there who doesn't seem to really be here for any reason except to stare all day at Janovan. Sketch of Rizzardo staring at Janovan in the distance, drooling, with a thought bubble of Janovan. I'm not really sure why he would agree to help save Ariel if all he wants is to be with Janovan, because if he gets freed, she'll just be with Ariel, but if not, and she keeps getting all frazzled, Rizzardo might actually have a chance, but still probably not. Then there's this one guy that they say he's called Larko, but I never heard him even say anything, and he just stands there while people say ideas. And there's also supposed to be someone named Matheline, except I've never seen her, so maybe she's Janovan's imaginary friend, like Mr. Kitty is for me. Anyway, so the plan is we should all disguise as bandits, because Red Black says it is red on the plains and our face is black. That way the Hell Knights don't know about us all, because we're going to wear different masks for other stuff or something. We call out that we will capture Ariel and Lainey and ransom them back to their temple, so the Hell Knights don't know we will rescue them. And then we only knock out the Hell Knights and don't kill them. Then Sklavo's protection from law thing will make it so they can't be bad at Lainey. And so Janovan and Tarvian people will lead away their riders, and then Carl will use his magic colors to make the other ones be knocked out so we can save Lainey. I'm really scared, and if we don't get killed or something, I'll tell you everything tonight.
That's right. So you pretended to be bandits, split the group, and then used color spray and other non-lethal tactics to knock them out.
Yep.
Trippy says, there's a typing test for your job, maybe. Now I'm wondering if there's a talking test. There isn't actually a typing speed test. That's not part of the test for it. But yeah, no, Mark can certainly talk fast.
That's my Elysial, like, sort of character voice for her. As I remember it from 10 years ago, anyway.
No, that sounds about right. Just sort of like the fact that it's like really fast and then sometimes it draws out. Or dots and then goes back to really fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's all of the other characters who were in the organization. Also, I will note that it's very important that she doesn't really recognize homophones, because she has knowledge planes and knowledge local are things that she has. And she has a lot of knowledge planes. So when they said that, oh, we have to go out onto the plains, we have to leave the city and go out onto the plains to do this mission, she was like, oh no, there could be devils and demons out there. And just kept telling people things that were true about the planes of existence.
It's like
no, that's not what's there. It's like I think I know something about the planes. It's like the one thing I know. Don't tell me I'm wrong.
It's like this is a different kind of planes. It's spelled differently.
Yeah, there's lots of different planes. There's the ones with the angels and the devils and the demons.
They had to go out to the actual Plains before she realized what was outside of the city, and that it was in fact not as.
She didn't quite figure out that leaving the city did not take you onto the plains.
Yes.
She thought that maybe that it was a different plane when you leave the city, because she had never left the city before in her life. Even after leaving it, she wasn't quite sure if that was a different plane.
Yes. So, so according to so there was a group of 10 Hell Knight armigers who were escorting the caravan. They staged an ambush. As described, I know that at one point they were like clambering on top of the caravan
to get a good color spray
to get color spray angles and other stuff like that. They were trying to. I think you guys also like sabotaged the thing that connected the horses to the carriage, so that the carriage couldn't move and they couldn't run off.
Correct.
You also were trying to stay close so that they couldn't shoot you with a heavy ballista that was on the cover of that. And yeah, you took over this group. You defeated their leader, the leader of this stalwart group of Mook Hell Knights, a first level cleric of Asmodeus.
Hey, he actually made the save against color spray.
He did make the save against color spray, so he didn't just go down like his other allies.
Die instantly, or not die, but get defeated instantly, like most characters against color spray in PF1.
And other than what they were carrying, the Hell Knights didn't really have treasure, so to speak, other than their armor, but they did have a letter from Mayor Aberian Arvanxi to the captain of the guard of Citadel Ravad, asking for help in dealing with a group of bandits called the Bastards of Erebus. Specifically, the letter seemed to be repeating the request and asking for a response to an earlier request for help in dealing with the bandits.
Dun, 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 dun.
So this is where the PCs first learned that there was some kind of bandit group called the Bastards of Erebus that was a problem for the city. And that was where the seed was planted, that maybe that was something they could deal with as a part of helping the city. They rescued Ariel as well as Lainey Axis at this point, who were much worse for the wear based on the treatment they'd received from the Order of the Rack. But neither of them had divulged any information about the Blades of Eridan to the Hell Knights. So the Hell Knights didn't really have. So with that combined with the fact that the PCs attacked in their guise as bandits, they didn't really have anything to go off of for going after the PCs.
I think they also hadn't been like fully tortured yet because they were gonna bring them to Citadel Rivad for that.
Yeah, they had gotten like a little bit roughed up, but they hadn't really been tortured. They'd been like punched a little bit. So the PCs rescued them, and they sort of. Ariel put on a bit of a disguise as they were going back through the city, and they got back to the hideout. And at that point, the PCs were able to sort of rest and properly meet people and decide, like, okay, is this an organization we want to stay with? And they decided, okay, well, it looks like we've gotten out of that trouble. Ariel explained that what Janovan was advocating for there, that's really not what they're trying to go for. And at that point, Ariel and Janovan and everybody were really exhausted, so they called it a night and decided that they would reconvene in the morning. The EP at this point told me that you should have been well into second level.
We were not.
And you were not. So this was the time when I realized, I didn't know until the AP said at this point the PC should be well on their way into second level, that you guys were under leveled. So then I realized I was going to need to do a lot of
first level
side stuff. So there was, so at this point, the PCs met, the PCs went to return the horses that they had borrowed with the Blaze of Eridan member Gorvio to his uncle who owned them, and found that, and met an actor, Thessing Umbero Ulvano, a character whose ego is giant and who is really completely an asshole throughout this entire
Lady Axis's rival for top actor
for top actor slash asterisk. A melodramatic man with a habit of treating everybody like garbage and extremely entitled and just generally all around terrible. He believed that the PCs took the horses to vex him and was cursing them out and was threatening to cause huge problems for Gorvio's uncle's business. And how did you respond to this?
We talked him down.
I think you talked him down,
We talked him down. I think that, we talked him down easily with diplomacy.
Yeah.
And something involving,
I think you were able to play to his pride somewhat by remembering, the things that he was in and just get him to be
remembering
his
plays. It's like, are you dissing Umbara Ovano from this and such a play? And then just played to his ego. And so then he got less mad because people were playing to his ego.
And it was at that point that we
Yosarian says PC's even remembering the borrowed horses, let alone returning them, a very conscientious party. Yes, we were definitely lawful and neutral good on that sort of... The neutral good ones were on the lawful end of neutral good. Like a neutral good Iomedean, a lawful good Shellonite. We were all in that borderline between lawful and neutral good, and we're pretty conscientious.
Yes.
We just didn't want to overthrow the government.
So yes, this is the point where it said, more heroics. If the PCs want some more practice, here's some more things you can do to gain XP. So this is where they defeated White Chin, the Goblin King, on the Sewers Adventure. This is where I
think you had us slay a Shadow Beast, which is one of the other options.
I had you slay a Shadow Beast. There was a masked woman called Blue Hood who offered rewards for any Shadow Beast killed. So you guys did multiple excursions of Shadow Beast hunting and turning in Shadow Beast parts to this mysterious Blue Hood woman. We
were kind of sketched by her, but also we did that, and the main thing was we made sure that we wanted to get some PR about the fact that we were killing the Shadow Beast so that people would know that there was someone who would stand up for them. And, getting rid of the Shadow Beast curse was one of our, if not our main goal as an organization. So we wanted to start by taking back the night at least a little bit and letting people know there was people out there they could believe in that were doing that. And so it made sense that we had staged patrols that we we worked together and made up lists, including with the NPCs, of like people who would go on patrol, and then Linda would have us sometimes fight a shadow beast.
Yeah.
Jim says so. MMO grinding.
There is a little bit of that, yes. But the PCs also fought some other generic highwaymen bandits, because that was one of the things that was set up that was saying, hey, you know, part of the reason the Hell Knights then didn't have resources to go back after the PCs is because the bandits had been on the rise, and then there was pressure from the Dotari for them to get out there and help with the bandits.
Yeah, I don't remember the bandit thing very well.
Yeah.
I remember the were-rat goblins a lot, because they had a little mini dungeon. I remember patrols, but I don't remember
I think
what we
this
did
was,
with the bandits.
this probably was just a generic, you fight some bandits, and there wasn't on the road, and there wasn't really much else going on.
You may have even placed them into the ruins or something, because I don't think we went out onto the plains.
Yeah, I may have placed them into the ruins. This wasn't a particularly memorable encounter, but I know that I did everything I could to get you guys XP.
And you did, and we got into level 2.
Yes. And they defeated the white-bearded goblin, who it said the Goblin King may be a were-rat, and so I decided, he's a natural were-rat, so they fought
natural were-rat with 10 DR/silver.
Yes. I think
Fortunately, we expected devils, so we
you
did
had
have some
weapons.
silver.
This was
and even though we didn't have that much silver, Color Spray is a fickle mistress who cares not for your 10 DR/silver.
It also turned out to be a handy way to indicate to the PCs that they should get more silver weapons for later stuff. Although I didn't have the GM chops yet to be thinking about stuff like that at the time. Yes.
Yo, Sarian says DR10 silver at level 1. Right. Color Spray time. Yes.
Yes. So at that point, they had gathered up. They had got well into level 2, and Ariel and Janovan explained to the PCs that this group of thieves, calling themselves the Bastards of Erebus, who had been suggested in that Hell Knight letter, had been committing a spree of robberies near the old cities, with at least one incident that had resulted in a double murder. The Bastards of Erebus were reputed to be a group of tieflings living in the rumored part of the city.
For Ariel, that makes it much worse.
For Ariel, that made it much worse. This is where Ariel first showed some of his anti-tiefling racism.
Yeah. He is, in your portrayal of him, he was a nuanced character who was also a racist. To his credit, he didn't just, lead up and be like, oh, I was saved by tieflings, you must be one of the good ones. He didn't say racist things to the PC characters, but the racist things he said about the enemy tieflings, it's no surprise that they became bandits because they're tieflings.
It made it clear that he was actually racist.
And he believed that tieflings were not people, according to the Edict of Iomade, that people of all races and ancestries and genders are considered to be allies if they want to fight against the darkness. Because one of my characters said, what about that? It's in the Acts of Iomade, and it's in her book.
You're part
He's
devil.
like, yes, but outsiders are not people because Charm Person and Hold Person only work on humanoids. And so it's very clear that all the spells that have the word person in it do not affect you.
Yes.
And so tieflings are not people. That doesn't mean that there are people, that there are beings out there that aren't people that are good, like angels, but they aren't. So Iomede's teachings don't of quality to them do not apply.
Yes.
Elftro says doesn't work in PF2 anymore. Yes. Elysiel got really mad. Eventually she got to a point, because she was not that self-confident, but she really wanted to stand up for herself there, but she eventually was like, you know what? I realize I'm arguing with the cleric of Iomade about Iomede's teachings, and I still think you're wrong, but the fact that Iomade grants you spells means that I'm wrong, so I'm leaving the religion.
Yes. And she converted fully to Shelyn at that point.
Yep. That happened later on.
Yep. So basically the idea here was that the Bastards of Erebus had been causing problems, and people knew that it was the Bastards of Erebus who were doing things because they always left behind a devil's head wooden token at the scene of their crimes. Ariel thought that the reason that the guards hadn't helped with it was because of corruption. Janovan thought they were just completely incompetent and you can't trust the guards with anything.
That was in the ruins section, right? So those guards were both corrupt and incompetent.
Exactly. So, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But Ariel had information from a person living in the ruined part of town about the location and nature of the Tiefling's lair. And in fact, it had been from returning from a visit to that contact that Ariel got captured.
Yep. So we were very wary of making the crossover. That fortified wall that separates out like the far ruined section from like the regular slums.
Yes. So Ariel reiterated the goals of the Blades of Eridan to increase the quality of life for the people of West Crown, and eventually to inspire Chiliax to loosen the grip of evil. But that's not what we're doing right now, Janovan. That's not what we're doing right now. We're going to responsibly and safely make people's lives better, so that eventually they may be able to make more decisions for themselves. And that's more how he framed it. And that eliminating, and he thought that by eliminating the Bastards of Erebus, they would be able to show West Crown that there are people out there who care for them, and they don't, and that if just because the guards aren't going to take care of things in these parts of the city that aren't so well to do, that doesn't mean that no one cares. So he set that up, and the PCs decided, okay, this is helping the city, so we're gonna go do this.
Yep.
And the PCs had disguises that they used, masks that they used when they were being.
And they were different than the masks from when we saved Ariel and Lainey, because Red Black said that it was important they didn't connect that to this other group, because then they're like, oh, well, these people are obviously members of this group, let's go arrest them.
Yes. But we're just about at the end of our time here, so I think this is a good stopping point right before the PCs conduct their daring raid.
The thing we remember the most, though, from the beginning of this campaign is definitely that first session, so it makes sense that a lot of the first episode was based on that. The first session is also, incidentally, the thing that we have the most notes and details about, because that was the thing that there were Elysial diaries about, and the thing she never, it would be really sketchy, like, that she had maybe died, but she never wrote a diary again that if I don't get killed, I'll tell you everything tonight, because it took a lot of effort to write those. Yes. So, let's say bye to YouTube. Bye, YouTube. See you next time. Bye.